tray says 72, and that just means that there's 72 cells per here. And what I want these ones for, the larger ones, is for the peppers. Peppers are very slow germinators. And one of the differences between the different sizes is the amount of soil that they have. So when I have something that's going to take, cleanish, right? When I have something that's going to take a really long time to grow, it can be nicer to give it a larger cell size, because it means it'll have more nutrients coming from the soil, or the capacity to kind of hold more nutrients. With these ones, with the tomatoes and with the allium starts, we're actually just going to do in the smaller ones, which are these ones are called 128. So like I said, there's always a number. If you look on one side of the tray, there's always a number there. So like 50s, 32s, 128s, 90s, 72s, those are probably the most common ones, at least that I come across. So that's going to dictate the size that you need. When I do lettuce heads, I always do 128s now. I used to do 72s, but it's also more soil, so it uses less soil. The other,
So the cost would be a little less.
the cost is less.
Medium.
And then the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some of our onions in what's called like open trays. And that's because we're going to do the alliums, and there's onions. So there's a couple different ways that you can grow and plant onions. So when I say alliums, I mean like leeks, onions, scallions, shallots. And alliums just kind of means all of those things. And so some people do what's called a nursery bed, and that's where if I had some soil outside in one of my fields, or like just hopefully a protected like under a hoop house, you could actually just directly seed into the ground. And then the plants will grow big enough, and then you'll basically just go in and remove the alliums from the nursery bed and then replant them elsewhere. So it's a way that you can grow a lot of seeds in a very dense capacity outside without having to be inside, and then you can take them out and transplant them. And so what you can do with that is it's called what we call like a bare root transplanting, because alliums are crazy. You literally can pluck them from the ground, cut their tops and their bottoms, give them a new home, and they're like awesome. And they they grow, and they're not, whereas like I feel like some other ones are just like quite delicate. Sort of. I also feel like all plants want to grow. I've like thrown things on the ground and stepped on them, and they've still rooted themselves and grown. So on the most part, seeds want to grow. But so we're going to do some of the open trays to kind of have that idea of the nursery bed concept, like this. But then for some, we're going to do into the 128s, and we're actually just going to transplant plugs. Okay. And what we're going to do for the ones that we're going to do the plugs is we're going to do, what do they call it? Why do I keep forgetting? Shallot. That word keeps slipping my mind. Shallots are much smaller onions, in case anyone isn't familiar with them. They're often kind of about like this size, so they're a lot smaller than like what we might think of. And so we're actually going to do like 2 to 3 seeds per cell, so that we'll have like a cluster. And so we'll transplant a cluster, and then they'll have enough room, and they're small enough that they'll fill out and grow. So we have a couple different techniques that we're going to do. So let's start with the open trays, and we're going to do 17 of these. So someone can take these and start filling them. It's like one of those things where...
I'm dyslexic as too tenuous, so...
Okay, so are folks ready? We can start filling trays. So one of the things, so we're going to fill different sizes of trays. Because we're going to do a couple of different things. So in some of the seeds we're going to just fill trays. And for some of them, we're going to fill cells.
So you're going to want to fill it, and then we take it around to let it settle.
And we take away these marks, right?
Yeah, I would fill it more. Really full. Fill it right up.
Okay, wait.
Yeah, and then take those out.
Yeah, right? So it's gonna bother, right?
Yeah, thank you.
We got these for stability. I think we'll leave these under those just because it seems
This one?
You'll continue at the way.
You got it?
Continue, yeah, I continue.
What time?
Or water these.
Yeah, we'll just seed into them and then you can water on top after it. It's not too bad, it's not too dry. It's a little bit on the dry side, but I think it's fine once you get it with some water. Okay, so for these ones, these are the ones that we're going to do the open seeding in, right? Because we don't have cells into them. And so that there's a couple different techniques that you could do. One of them that some people do is they actually do like a sprinkling, broadcasting over the whole thing is a technique. And what some people, I even have friends that are doing tomatoes like this, actually. They're starting them in a flat, sprinkling everything, and then they'll go in and they'll pick the ones that they want and transfer. And so, yeah, so, well, we could do that way. I hadn't thought about that. I guess I would just think them of the other way, because my other thought was to do that and then 2 smaller rows. But we could also just do like that. And just do small rows like this. Just to kind of give us the idea, and then we can go back and make it a little bit deeper. Like that. Very scientific. Not used to seeding with a crowd. And then what we want to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, let's try 9. And then what we want to do once we've done that is we're going to put seeds in these cells. But what we're going to do is like 2 cells per centimeter. Per centimeter. So these ones, yeah, that'd be great. And so these ones are Walla Wallas. Walla Wallas get to be pretty big. They're a really nice fresh eating onion. They're really sweet. They're really sweet type of onion. They're not good for storage. So you know how you go to the store and you see all of the stored onions? These are terrible for that because they have really thick walls to them and they're very moist. And so what doesn't tend to store well is things that have a lot of moisture in them. They tend to rot more quickly than other things. You don't just have all the tools.
This is the seed.
Yeah,
Black one?
yeah, they're black. I know, I love how different all seeds look. And so if we think of a centimeter is probably going to be about that much, or someone said to me once the thickness of your finger, but I feel like my fingers
Depends on your finger.
are thicker than a centimeter. And the other thing with this too, the other is not to be too worried. Just kind of